start recording this, and this is the title of today's lecture. And let me first introduce Mr. Marone, okay? And the lecture is titled, as you can see, Inhabiting Water and Fluidity of Architecture. And he will explain what that means, but he will show you various designs that he's done, the buildings that deals with a lot with water. And that in process of its design, he considered the fluidity of water, once that is incorporated into architecture and buildings, that he wants to retain that kind of fluidity of water and see if possible if architecture could become just as a fluid as water would be. That's my speculation before I even listen to his lecture here. And because architecture is incredibly static form, it doesn't change once you build. It doesn't move once you build them. It's in fact, one could consider the most maybe afluid substance. And so I think it's interesting comparison to see that. Mr. Marone is an architect who has been assistant professor of architectural design since 1997. And in Italy, all the professors are given a title regardless which school they teach. I believe it's kind of nationalized system. And so that's the title that he has. First, he taught at Sapienza University in Rome, then at the Università della Campania, which is a region in Italy. Luigi, sorry, Raffaele, I'm just being terrible here with my Vanvitelli. I mean, it's like, you don't mind, right? I'm just a typical Americano, right? At the Department of Civil Engineering from 2009 to 2018. I forgot to mention that he was teaching at the Sapienza Università di Roma from 1997 to 2009 for 10 years. He seems like he's due kind of a 10-year here and 10-year there. And currently at the Department of Architecture and Industrial Design. He was awarded with the Luigi Cosenta Architecture Award in 1994 for the aqueduct facilities in a public natural reserve. See, here's the first example that he has worked with water. He has been guest professor, visiting critic, lecturer at various international seminars and workshops, and carried out research and taught at universities in Napoli, Rome, Porto, that's in Portugal. Is that right, Raffaele? Porto, Lausanne, yes, Switzerland, right, Milan, of course, Italy, and Paris in France. He was a curator of Lugares Linguais, Experiencia della Essenanza del Proyecto en Italia y Europa at the Universidad Nacional de Colombia in Bogotá, Medellín. Those are the cities in Colombia, two major cities, Bogotá and Medellín. And Sapienza Università di Roma. He has published projects, articles, essays, including the book titled Spazi Scritti in 2004, Architecture Continuous Pursuit, and Pensare per spazi vedere e immaginare come un architetto e pensare per spazi esercizi per il progetto di architettura in 2012 e ovunque è architettura fatti dello spazio c'è abitiamo in 2018. That was my Italian lesson for today. So let's welcome Professor Raffaele Marone. Okay, so I think you have to take the screen now.
Okay. Anyway, good morning, and thanks to Professor Parker for his effort with Italian language. Thank you. And thanks to everybody to stay here. I'm really glad to be here today. So now I want to share my screen. Okay, so you're working on water and living space, I know. So today I'd like to give you some suggestions about water as a material for architecture. I think when we want to modify our living space by architecture and water, it's important to know the power, the great power of water in architecture, besides or before maybe technical information. So I'll try to tell you just something about the magic of architecture and water into the sunlight. Anyway, if an architect talks on architecture today, it's important, I think, to declare his own point of view, his poetic of architecture. It's fundamental, I think. If one would like to have an idea about what contemporary architecture is, you search contemporary architecture on Google Image, and at a screenshot like that, styles, volumes, shapes, colors, materials, all different. It's like an architecture jungle. So I think it's important to tell you what is my point of view as a contemporary architecture, and I want to answer to two questions. What's exalted architecture? What's space? I started with the idea of exalted living space many years ago with a fascination with Etienne Louis Boullé architecture. So exalted architecture became my personal way to cross contemporary architecture by my research project and teaching. My definition of exalted architecture comes from the Aldo Rossi introduction to Boullé, a book of 18th century by Etienne Louis Boullé. And but my idea of exalted architecture is that amplifying perception and emotion, besides the function that a building needs, we can reach a kind of exalted architecture. So perception and emotions are the main function of building for me, sometimes more important than the way that a building is used. this is the picture that we saw a while before, and this is the project for the National Library in Paris. And I want to tell you some elements that got this space into an exalted architecture. So the first one is the excessive sides. And you can realize the sides of this space looking at the person that are here. Another element, excuse me. Another element is the building utopia in this picture, because you can see here this enormous skylight that was really impossible to build at that time. So was just a will to have a dramatic sense of sunlight coming from the ceiling, from here. And the last character that I consider very important to exalt this space is the redundant symbolism of books. All these books that are like the wall, and the walls are made by books. So this is a great symbol, I think. 150 years later, more or less, in Sweden, Erik Gunnar Asplund built the National Library with the same idea that the books are wall of a library. And here another library, another important library, where the characters of a exalted space are a feeling of staying into a giant cube, because this internal space is a giant cube, and the magic of sunlight crossing the marble walls. This space has no window, and sunlight comes in just because these marble slabs are transparent. And another important character is the symbolic and emotional strength of contents, because there are many rare books here, but maybe the rarest is the Bible, the Gutenberg Bible, the first printed book in the history of culture. But I have a personal symbolic strength about this library. That is this book is the Voynich manuscript. That is maybe the more mysterious book in the history of culture, and is in this library. It's a book never deciphered till now. Now, this is for me, it's the mother of all Western architectural interior space, and it's an exalted architecture. It's the Pantheon in Rome. Was originally a temple, then a church, but the character is due to the here to from the enormous sides of the space. Look at people here, and also here is the sunlight coming from only one skylight high here. That's 30 feet wide, this hole here. There is no glass, no window, And you can imagine when it's raining, here in the interior space, you have a giant columns of water coming down. And is also a sort of absolute interior. In the past, in fact, outside, the Pantheon was completely hidden by other construction, and so was really surprising when one went inside from the street and was in this incredible space. So perception and emotions are very, very strong here. This is a detail of the vault of Pantheon, and you can see here, staying here, the sunlight moving on the curved surfaces all the day long. So the atmosphere, the interior atmosphere is changing moment after moment. And this is the interior of a church. This is the last Le Corbusier work that he didn't see built because he died before. And the interior space is characterized from sunlight. On this wall, there are different size holes in the walls. Sunlight points are like stars on this side of the church. And these holes make a sense of wall dematerialization in a certain sense. And so on with another emotional space. It's a little space. So the sides are not so important in exalted architecture. This is the media room at ICA in Boston by Dolores Cofidio, and this is a very special space because it's an inclined room, but overall because the fourth wall of this room is made by water, because you just can't see the Boston port waters on this side. Hope I clarified what exalted architecture is for me with these few examples. So the other question that I want to answer is what space? Thinking by space, to think space is the English translation of the book that the Professor Park said before in Italian. So, what space? I want to read some words by Paul Rudolph, you know, an American architect, a master of 20th century American architect. He wrote, "Architectural space is similar to the movement of water. It has velocity, excuse me, it has velocity, there are cross currents of movement, it surges forward or upward, it can trickle to a standstill, it can be deep and wide or shallow and still, it can gurgle with the joining of tributaries, it can swirl, leap up or fall precipitously. Water can be photographed, space cannot, except in a dust storm." And here you can see the picture of a sandstorm. But I found a simpler way to explain my idea of space. Here we have a ice cube tray and ice cube. And I would like to do with you a very quick and simple experiment. So look at your room now. You can imagine that you can close completely windows and door. So you go out of, and before closing everything, then you fill a water all the room, and with a special device you freeze all this water. So the room is completely full of water, and then you froze the water. Then you destroyed all the wall around, all the walls, the ceiling, the floor. What remains is a giant ice cube. That's exactly the shape of the space of this room. This is a sort of joke, but it's important to visualize what is the space. And so with this idea of space in mind, we can talk about inside and outside in the living space. That is a basic relation in architecture. It's a very, very important important relation. So we can ask. Excuse me, I'm trying to. We can. Okay. We can ask, does architecture need a roof? And to answer to this question, I show you a very ancient architectural complex. Is in north of France, Carnac, and this is a menhir field. The menhir is a stones that is put vertically in the ground. We don't know really what was the use of these kind of fields. But for me, it's important to understand that this is an artifact. This is the natural landscape. So if you stay inside the menhir field, you can recognize that you are inside a space that is a special space, different from the natural space around. So this is, you are inside here, and if you stay in the landscape, you are outside. Also, if we don't have a roof on this architectural space. And we can ask, does architecture need a facade to be architecture, to be an exalted architecture? This is a very famous Giovanni Battista Piranesi series of picture, the imaginary prisons, carceri di invenzione. And in these drawings, in this sort of imaginary project, these architectural spaces are without an outside, an absolute. So it's a sort of absolute inside. Fullness generating a sort of extreme claustrophobia. Excuse me, just a moment. Okay. So So here, the architecture is assaulted by the enormous sides. Again, there is no, no sunlight here because there are no windows in this space. And people that you can see here everywhere is just in pain and sorrow. And another character that make assaulted this architecture is the powerful pillars that you can everywhere here, uh, that are in contrast with all this light structure, like these bridges, staircase, other structures. So this contrast is something that amplify the character of this space. Now, Roman age water reservoir that is in the Bay of Naples, in the northern part of Bay of Naples, and this is a view from outside. You can see that there is no facades, just a sort of ceiling that you can see outside. But inside, this is the space. Piscina Mirabilis in English means the incredible pool, the wonderful pool. This is the interior, and the space is completely underground. Is digged completely underground. So you have the feeling of staying inside the earth. And also it's very impressive if you think that when you stay in a large empty space where just water was in the past, because this building was all the time was full of water. And another important element is again the strength of stone pillars. Also the light, the sunlight, the rhythm of sunlight falling down from holes in the roof is another strong element. And the feeling to stay in a sort of a forest of pillars is when you walk inside this absolute internal space. So I remember you that we are talking about inside and outside in living space, and this is an interesting building in central Italy, a small temple built in a natural cave. So this is the inside of the cave. Excuse me, the outside. The inside is the cave, but the inside here is outside for the internal space of the small temple. So it's a chain of inside-outside conditions. Now, something about a sort of archetype for humans, because staying inside the things is a sort of dream, a will, an archetype of human fantasy, and the Trojan horse is the fundamental example. But in living space too, in real living space too, we can find this will to stay inside the things. What is this? This is a cross-section of a manufact. And you can see the profile of the inside here, and we can see the profile, the outside profile here. This is a cross section. I remember that Professor Kyung talked you about the cross section. But the specificity of this strange drawing is that the internal profile is completely different from the outside. That's the man fact. This is a statue, the Colossus of Apennines, in a beautiful, very beautiful historical park not far from Florence, where people can go inside, till the head of this giant. So many times we need an extreme condition for a deep understanding of a topic. And this is the case of inside-outside relation. This is another strange building that's in the Sacred Grove, that's also known as Park of the Monster, not far from Rome in Italy. And this is one of the monsters where people can go inside. Look at the year, 1547. So we are in the final part of Renaissance age, and some architects were building some strange living space. Just another trip into a thing. This is a very special windows. You can see the Lago Maggiore Lake in northern Italy. And this is the eye of this giant statue. It's San Carlo di Arona. That is a statue that is 35 meters high. I think like 100 feet high. And you see the section in two different pictures. And this is the special condition to go. It's incredible because you can walk inside the body, and you arrive at the eye and you see the lake. Now some words about the importance of human body in living space. Always the importance of human body was fundamental in architecture, but maybe more in our era. That's the virtuality age. I think it's very, very important. And this is as you can read, a mock-up is not a building, a real building. This is a one-to-one scale mock-up that was built from the architect Mies van der Rohe for his client that wanted to know what could be the relation between the body of inhabitants, the building, the new building, and the landscape. So this was the test. This mock-up is made by a wood structure and fabric wall. This wall move in the wind, and all this mock-up was built just to check the relation with the real human body, because before the construction. Was the construction anyway? Was built. And some few words from Le Corbusier. Le Corbusier said the day of a construction site starting in Chandigarh for this parliament building, it was in this empty space. So he said, an initial occupation of the land was attempted. The corners of the building were indicated with black and white pours. It was found that the gaps between the buildings were too wide. With great anguish, a decision had to be made on that boundless ground. Pathetic soliloquy. Alone I had to think and decide. It was no longer a problem of reasoning, but of sensation. So the key word is sensation, is the sensation that a human being feel uh, in the space. And this is the question of the issue of the scale. The body, the human body and the space, the relation is regulated by the scale. Often we ask, looking at a picture of a building, of a space, how large is it? How small is it? So maybe, I don't know if you know Clifford, because this is a old big red dog. Anyway, here you can see there is something that doesn't work. There is a mistake, a sort of mistake, because the dog and the doghouse are too big, related with the friends and the other dogs. And also here, there is a sort of a mistake, a scale mistake. This is Italy miniature, a theme park where people can walk and visit all the country in few minutes. People can see the different region, the main cities, the most important monuments. But this is possible because there is a scale mistake. This is not obviously the real scale of the country. And Le Corbusier again was really obsessed with the scale, the measure, the relation between the human body and the architectural space and the architectural elements. He wrote a book in 2 volumes called titled Le Modulor, that was a research about the relation between the human body measure and architecture, considering the golden number. So it's a big book about just this problem. And now we have to understand better what the way that I'm considering the architectural space. We turn to the sculpture, but just to talk about movement and vision into the space. Sequences. Sequences are a sort of movie that our mind play when we go around an object, in this case a sculpture. Here Michelangelo, here down here Auguste Rodin. So if you want see completely a sculpture, you have to move necessarily you have to move, and you turn around and you can see all the artwork. In the same way, there is the same condition in architecture. As a sculpture, a building is never perceptible from a single point of view. You only have, you only see a part, and you have to move to go around. But the difference is that with architecture, you can go inside. Here, this is a sketch by Eric Mendelssohn, and it's interesting because this is a project sketch, various sketches. And the architect is imagining to turn around up and down the building that he is creating. But as I said before, the importance of sequences that we may make when we turn around a building is related with the interior space too. And Romans were masters of sequences into architectural spaces. Maybe they got the perfection in space sequences with the houses. This is a famous Pompeii house, the Fauno house, and I want to show you the impressive sequence of different spaces based on contraction and expansion of the space, the feeling of space. This is the river here, the street, sorry, and an entry here, an entry here. So the entry is a very small and narrow space. Then you go in an open space that is a peristilio, that is wider, so the space is expanded here. Then there is another contraction of space, and you can go in another open space, and so on, narrow spaces, and then you can go in a wider space till to arrive at the big courtyard at the bottom of the house. So people that walk in this house, in the spaces of this house, continually feel contraction and expansion of space, building in mind a sequence of images of the space. Now our topic, central topic, architecture and water. I started the first part of this talk with Boulez, one of the architects of French Revolution. And talking about architecture and water, I start with a project by Nicolas Ledoux, another architect of French Revolution. This is an imaginary house for the supervisor of the source of a river. And architecture and water is a topic in every time. And it's interesting that often the emphasis of the presence of a building that contains water is put on this building. I want to say that this could be an anonymous building because it's a facility, an infrastructure building, but many times people decide to emphasize presence, the urban presence of this kind of building. And we know that the interior of this kind of buildings is always, almost always, full of intense atmospheres due to the presence of water related with the architectural structure. So I show you just the giant shadows of a building, just to say that every facility building can become an emotional device thanks to the architectural design. And this is a 80th century aqueduct bridge that brings water from the spring to the royal palace of Caserta, that is a city in my region, not far from Naples. And finally, some works of mine. The first one is a water reservoir that you can see here. Is this is on the border of national park in southern Italy, and these are the drawings. I tell you some the importance of three elements that are the control room here, the underground tanks where the water circulates here, and there is another important element that is a corridor here, that here in the cross section, where there are windows, little window, to check the level and the condition of water in these underground tanks. This is the facade that is 110 meters long, and this is the interior of a corridor. These are the windows to check the water level and condition. And here there are windows on the floor, so the direct sunlight can go towards the windows. And this is the facade, the part of the corresponding the corresponding part of the facade. The sunlight hit these inclined slabs, and under here there is the hole, there is the window hole here. Okay, so this is the facade of the corridor. This is the interior of the corridor. Some drawings more. This is the corridor cross section with the little windows to check the water here in these tanks. A picture of the interior of a control room here, and this is in the background the corridor that we saw before here. A couple of pictures to show the reason of this little small window that emphasize the joint between the volume, the control room volumes and the corridor volumes. And this is the interior, the corresponding interior. Another water reservoir, smaller than the one that we just saw. This is in a natural state park, in a forest, and you can see here many trees. We decide to cut less possible trees were cut here, because not just for green preservation value, but also because we needed a contrast between the strong verticality due to the presence of the forest, of the trees in the forest, and the horizontal lines of the facade. Here the drawings, again, again the same architectural elements, but in different shape. This is the control room. This is the corridor to check the level and quality of the water in the underground tanks. And this is the effect here. You can see the facade. This is the facade plan here, and there is a double layer of beams this facade is a filter for sunlight. So this is the effect of this double layer of beams here and here. Inside this side there is a staircase to go upstairs, and this is the control room interior with the sunlight rays. And here two pictures that show that the facade is not symmetric, because on this side there is the staircase, so the double layer of beams, it has a different wideness. And the last picture about this building. Here we are at corridor level, and the corridor level is the only place where you can see the exterior, the landscape of the forest from inside. There is a strip windows where through it you can see the landscape outside. A picture of the aqueduct's parking room. That is an historical, very big park. And just to say that that an aqueduct is a system, is a system of different types of building. So you can find different manufactures. And this is a pumping station in Rifredo Forest. This building is made to bring water up to the reservoir that we watched a while ago. This is a general plan. This is the river in the bottom of the valley. This is a side of Rifredo Valley. And we choose a small plot of flat land to build the facilities here. So here we have the church tank. So the water arrives by tubes here. From here goes in the pumping room, and on this side there is a electrical control room and the electricity generator here. And the fourth element of the composition is a panoramic corridor here. So here you can see the charge tank is here in the ground, the pumping room here, the electrical control room here, and the space for the electric generator. So here, the corridor, the panoramic corridor that is right here. Here, some cross section that and the facade that show the facade and the relation between the building, the various part of the building, and the ground level that change. Here a detail of this is the electrical control room. This is the roof. There are just skylight on the roof, and this is the corresponding atmosphere, light atmosphere inside here. This is another historical example. As you seen, I'm showing a sort of transfiguration of historical elements that we can do in our time. So sometimes I take some architectural device in the history, from the history of architecture, and I use some of these relation that this architecture creates. This is a simple building, but it's big and it's very interesting. This is in the Capodimonte park that is that is close to the Royal Palace of Capodimonte in Naples. Is a circle, a perfect circle, and is a rainwater collection system. So each side is inclined, and the rainwater goes in this point. This is a well, but also a collector of rainwater. Then water goes in the center of the composition, where there is an underground tank, and we can see here the check windows. As you said, as you can see, the elements of water architecture often are the same in different times, different age. And I was I shown you this this historical historical sample in Naples because architects often have to design waterways. We have to address the fluidity of water in precise direction to get to reach specific places. So this is a project in Parma. Parma is an important historical city in North Italy, and this is a part of historical center. Here we can see in the plan the most important building of the city, Palazzo della Pilotta. That is a very big historical building. This is the Parma River, a bridge, an historical park of the 19th century. And this river is special in the sense that water is here for like 4-6 months in 1 year. In the rest of the year, the riverbed is completely dry, so people can walk in this riverbed. And so we put the new building here on a axis of the historical part, like to complete the composition. And we put a wall here, a wall that when water start to come in the end of autumn, this wall stop the water and bring it into the building. This way, water arrives, the first waters arrive, the wall blocks the water, and the water progressively fills the building. So so the water grows inside the level. The water level grows till arrive here, and in this way, in the winter, just a cube in the water, in the river waters. So we can understand maybe better through the drawing. So this is the riverbed level. So when the water arrived, the level grows until here. And when in the winter there is water all here, just the cube is out of water. You can see the big water in the river. These are plants at different levels, the riverbed levels, the cube levels, and this is the roof level. Few words about another very important character to remember when we work with architecture and water. In the history, the symbolic sense of water is very important. Overall, when these water were considered sacred waters. In Sardinia, we can see hundreds of sacred wells from since 1000 years before Christ or earlier. This is maybe the most famous sacred well in Sardinia, Santa Cristina well. And this was inspiring for the next project that I'll show you. So just a few words about it. Here, down here, there is the spring. So there is a hole in the perfect correspondence with the spring, and there is a staircase to go down. This place maybe was just for ceremony, but it's very important also for a special condition with the sunlight, the moonlight. It's a very very big question. And so this is, I think, the last project, maybe, that I show you. It's Seveso River listening room in a little town not far from Milan, in northern Italy. This is the town center. Here we have the main church, another church, an historical building of the 17th century, and a historical big park connected. And this is the Seveso River here, with a little bridge on river here. In the 70s, because the explosion in a factory, Seveso River was polluted by dioxin. So in the 80s, people decide to cover the river bed because the pollution. And we decide to design a river listening room right here on the bridge to leave the memory of river waters, at least. Just a few words about the importance of the sound of space. This is a cave under the Greek theater in Syracuse, in Sicily. And there is a legend that say that this was a jail here, and for the special acoustic condition of the cave, it was possible to hear the word of the prisoners up to the theater outside. I was there. It's impressive. The possibility of hearing any words or noise. Everything is completely not amplified. It's strange because you can listen to everything, but it's not a strong noise. It's a very strange place. And I told you about this building because the very small building that we designed is about the sound of water. So this is the facade, the sort of facade is a cross section. This is the street level, and here there are few staircases that goes down to this place where you can find a bench under a canopy, and this is the end of a cylinder that goes to the river waters, where there are three concrete slabs that when the river water hit these slabs, produce a strong sounds that goes up to the bench where people can stay and hear the sound of the river. These are the plants at different level. At riverbed level here with the three slabs, and two others level. Some picture of an old maquette, the staircase, the space of the open air room, the vault, and the bench beneath the vault. Two views from the bench to the old building, the historical building, and from the historical building to the bench. And this is the structure, the small building with the cylinder into the river waters. Luckily, the Seveso River never was covered in the end. This is just the end of my lecture, and I want to say that my work as architect is researching, designing, and teaching architecture. So to finish, I want to show you a first level graduation project by a third-year student in design and communication at the Department of Architecture of my university. Campania, University of the Campania, Luigi Vanvitelli. And this is a very recent work discussed on last December, and this about Piscina Mirabilis again. Do you remember the ancient water reservoir that we saw a while ago? So the project designed some light facilities on the roof of the existing building, and for the visitors of the building and of the monument, because this is an historical monument, and also to visit a site-specific installation that was designed in this occasion. So this is the interior and the facilities. And this is just a view of the top where people can stay, and the water is on the roof, and this is the condition, the state of the interior that we saw also before, and just a look at this paradise room by Giuseppe Terragni in the Danteum, a building that had to be built in Rome, but then there was the Second World War, and this room, this paradise room, is built by glass columns. And this is the installation in Piscina Mirabilis. The water comes back into the Piscina Mirabilis through this installation that brings water from the roof through this glass tube to the interior space. And this is the way to bring water again in the ancient Piscina Mirabilis. Using all the structure, the characteristics of this space, like the hole, this glass tube has the shape of the hole that are not regular. This is my last picture. I found these drawings of Chartres Cathedral in France. I don't know anything about geobiology. This picture came from a geobiology book, but I think it could be wonderful if it's true that there is the incredible net of underground waters under the cathedral, an underground river, and 14 canals that are placed under the choir pillars. This could be wonderful. Okay, just some book of mine, just this is in English. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your amazing lecture and architecture and relationship water. Does anybody have any questions to Mr. Marone? Anyone? Okay. Well, okay, then meanwhile, other people think about questions. Maybe I were first to kind of ask you. I find that the water wells, right? The sacred water wells in Sicily, and how you actually kind of brought that idea uh, and combined it in some sense, into your projects in the river that has been buried. And there, that how do you feel about the kind of potential of all these wells that were, that are throughout in Italy and elsewhere, but if we look at just in your country, uh, that there are many wells that are still in existence? And do you feel that we could actually uh, use some of that kind of idea from seeing water as a kind of a spiritual material? Because these water wells are not being used functionally these days. And so to think about another, function or significance or value, uh, and that whether there's any potential, let me say theoretically that, let me say about that you could start a new religion, perhaps. Can I say that? Um, and why do I say this? Because uh, we're in a period where environmental crises are about to uh, affect our life in a very, of course, already has, but even more significant than ever. And a lot of my students and younger people who are now just starting to learn about the world, this is a big problem for them, right?
Mhm.
And when you talked about your project and using example in Sicily, and they started almost 1,000 years before a man named Jesus Christ appeared, right? And so I think about how that we should maybe consider that our religious belief should return to rever nature instead of us, you see? Because the religion of Christianity and others have made gods that are like us,
Yeah.
in the form of human existence and body, right? Even Islam that forbids, illustration of physical being in and that may be fundamentally, historically, or civilizational wise, that was the biggest problem against environment. That it was the beginning of how we turned against and away from nature, our environment, because we no longer celebrated them and believed in them. And their importance became less than us. And the beginning of that process, or the exploitation or degrading of nature and environment, may be founded on how we begin to believe gods that are like us or one of us. And we begin to annihilate and exterminate the previous religions that most of them, many of them, believed in water or sun or other source or material of nature that gave us life and existence, and we have turned away. So I know that I have taken this conversation to a very different place, but I'm just kind of curious about uh, what, you know, your experience of architecture in contact with the idea of spirituality, both in the sense of these ancient sacred wells, or even the Dionysius's cave where the sound becomes a spirit, illegible.
Yeah.
You can hear, but you can't understand the words, but it becomes something else, turns into kind of a spirit. Uh, I, I wonder what you thought about this crazy thought that I have now. What do you think about it?
I'm really glad that you moved the discussion of this plane, because it's my real way of approaching architecture. But when I describe the project or building or ancient monument, I try to explore the the deep sense of the space through emotion and perception, because you know, uh, in many of these cases, the sacred wells, or I think these buildings were made in an age where maybe the human thoughts were simple, because simpler than now, because the body, the perception, the feeling were the main way to approach the world. I think this is my idea. Uh, so it's important, I think, for us to come back to this sensibility, to this. We, I think, we could be able to feel again some special energy that are in the air, by sounds in the water, and this is I don't think it's so far from our contemporary sensibility, and because many artists works on these immaterial materials, no, because um, and about the new religion that you told before. I think it's a sort of new pantheism uh, that uh, I don't think is necessarily religion, but just to let our sensibility, human sensibility, grow, because maybe all the bad things that we make with nature are just a lack of sensibility. We don't understand and don't feel anymore the richness of some natural conditions, but also when nature is reshaped by architecture. I love a lot the sacred well in Sardinia. It's not Sicily, Sardinia, the other big Italian island, and this is a very special land, all the island, because there are many very ancient archaeological sites, and there are very strange typology of building that you can find in other parts of Italy, of the world. It's a very, very interesting and strange land. There are the Tombe dei Giganti, that are the giant tomb that but you don't know if what was the use of these places, because maybe was something to study the sky. I don't know. There are hypotheses, but really it's very hard to understand what these this building were used to. So so I think that this is a field, a research field that I like to follow, and I'm really happy that you catch the core of my research. Really, thank you.
Any other questions? This is a very very good opportunity to learn more about Professor Marone's architecture. Anyone, please?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, thank you for your presentation. My question is, what's your, I guess, design process? Like, what do you usually start off with? Like, do you do modelings? And because you do work with water, I'm kind of curious how you kind of create maybe like prototypes, or yeah, just like designing before the actual structure or architecture.
Yes. Yes, I have to say something that I all the time I said to my students, because I think architects or artists who creates some new form, shape, space, I think need to know uh, a lot of artwork made by other people in all the ages, but it's not so important that are contemporary artists or creator or architect, but we have to catch ideas from all the world all the time, and to constitute a sort of big tank with we put all these images. I know that more we fill this image tank, more we can forget also what we see. But I'm sure, because this is my experience, when we need an idea, these images came from the bottom of this container, and give us the way to draw, to think the new form, the new space, new shape that we want. So my way of working is strange, because sometimes ideas came out um, before I start to work the real design process. The mind start to work also just with the what is the topics of the project. I don't know, an house on a coast on southern Italy. So I know the place, and I start to a sort of self brainstorming in a way. No, then I start to draw sketches. My way of working is very traditional, but I try to teach to my student the traditional way of my traditional way, because they can add this way to contemporary way that are made sometimes without a pencil, without colors, with not just by computer or by tablet. Or so I think that another important thing to use are is a maquette temporary maquettes that you made while you are working. It's not so important sometimes the final maquette of the project, because it's very important to understand what could be the shape of space, but not just by a computer, by the 3D drawings. You have to compare you can compare the maquette, the real maquette, with the 3D 3D drawings. That's interesting. I think this is the most interesting things of this time, that you can take all the past ways of working on a project, and add all this knowledge to the new one, to the new digital means. And in this way, you are lucky, because you can have many means to create spaces, living spaces, artwork, and what you want. I don't know if I answer to your question anyway.
Yeah, that did. Thank you.
Thanks.
That was excellent question, Alicia. Anybody else would like to ask a question here?
Hi. I was really interested in the floodable exhibition room in Parma, and I was wondering if you could speak more toward like the different levels that you were describing. Yeah.
Yes, thanks. But this was considered a crazy project because the idea to build something in the riverbed was considered crazy. But anyway, this was a competition project, and I was happy because the critic that wrote the catalog considered that this proposal very interesting, because very emotional, and so he understood perfectly the sense of this project. That is a project on time. No, I think it's important. Professor Kyung said that at the beginning of this lecture, he said that architecture is something that stays there, can't move, and it's deeply true. But it's the time move the architectural space and its definitions. And this is very important, very interesting, because everything is in transformation, moment after moment. Each building is different. We can see, but if we can see I don't remember when you see many times in a short times, no, you can see that everything is transforming. So I think that architecture sometimes can exalt the role of time in human life. So this strange device that we designed for Parma was just that, to amplify and exalt a normal, what is considered a normal condition, that the water in the summer is not there, in the winter the river appears again. But it's not so normal, no? But it's interesting that you can see the time that in which this transformation happens. And so the building in this case helped to see the time. I think many times architecture can can be visible time, can get visible time. Also with the sunlight, you are maybe you saw that I'm a little bit obsessed with the sunlight, no? Because sunlight is a sort of footprint of time, no, on the mobile footprint of time in the building. And maybe I don't know, I forgot to talk about the different level of Parma building. That's anyway, this is just like a box that water can fill in the day after day, and that's why there are, if you remember, there are staircases that are a sort of sign of different level of water, till the water submerge everything, and so the space and the image of the building change. So the different level are made in a way that you can read the different state of water in the time. So before the floatable the staircase are full of water, then the space under that sort of porticos, and then at the end the cube. So these are different parts of the building that are different part of the state of waters, of river waters.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? You have questions? I think some of your questions are really, really good. Your last chance. Okay. All right. So let's thank Professor Marone for his really great lectures and wonderful projects. And so thank you very much. And you've given a lot of influence and advice to my students. Thank you.
Oh, thank you to you. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye. So we're going to take a break, and let's say we take a 12 to 13 minute break, and we meet back at 11 o'clock. Thank you. Okay. Ciao.
Bye. Bye. Ciao.
Bye.
Ciao.